Hello, everybody. Welcome to IGDA-GBC. This is our session for Friday, February 18th, 2022. I hope you guys are all doing well. If this is their first time here, very much welcome. You are welcome here. And for those of you who are returning, thank you for joining us once again. Today is a special occasion because I've been kind of planning this in the back burner for like the past few months now with JP. Tonight, I have invited Professor Yashmanyu Bharij, who is a professor at George Brown College in the G119 game art side. He is currently teaching animation, and he is also a character rigger, technical programmer. I think also a tools developer at Raven Software Activision for I think Warzone as well. Yeah, so we are welcome to have Yash here, and he will give us a presentation for his usual work life, a little blurb on Activision Raven Software, and any other cool stuff that he has to share with us tonight. For ground rules, as I mentioned before, microphones off. If you have questions during the course of the presentation, please refer them to the Q&A text channel, which is a couple channels up from speaker stage. So if you have anything that caught your eye or your ear during the presentation, feel free to type it in. The presentation material is going to last for about 45 minutes-ish. And then from the time onward from there, it will be relegated to Q&A. So we will answer like your questions that you put into Q&A, and we'll also have an open floor once we've gone through all those. If there's any other extra things that have caught up in your mind, or it's like if there's anything else you want to know from Yash. So without further ado, I'd like to take this time to leave it to Yash for his presentation. Yash, the floor is all yours.
All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yashmanyu Bharij, but please feel free to call me Yash, because nobody can pronounce my name. I am a technical animator at Activision Raven Software, and also a professor at George Brown, uh, teaching animation to second years. So most of this presentation is what I gave last year, but it was mostly directed towards animation and like 3D art, but I have included some other stuff. But feel free to ask me any question you guys have on the programming side, and if they are too complicated, I'll just ask my coworkers. If but yeah, feel free to ask me whatever. Uh, all right. So a bit about me. I'm a technical animator, tools dev, and a professor at Activision Raven presently. I graduated from GBC's art program in around April 2020 ish, and I've been working ever since. My first job was with CyberConnect on their game, which I couldn't have released back then, but it was Demon Slayer. That was my first job in the industry. After that, I moved to a film character rigger at Soho VFX on a feature film that was Cinderella on Amazon Prime. And after that, I shifted to games because I love games more. So I was a technical animator at Behavior Interactive, the developers behind Dead by Daylight. I worked there for quite a while, and now I've shifted gears towards AAA, uh, full-time technical animator at Activision. Working right now, I'm on Warzone, Call of Duty, and yeah. And I was the ex mocap lead student researcher at George Brown. I was a lot of things at George Brown. But yeah, that is like a bit over about me. Although I did say technical animator, I'm more of a tech artist, and this is kind of like the funny pictures I found on internet about tech artists. But I'll explain what I do. So tech artists are basically people who like art and programming, which people think isn't true because I never knew this was like a job. And but when I realized, when my professors told me, when I googled a bit about jobs, I was like, okay, tech art is a thing. And from them, from then I started making my portfolio towards tech art, and now I work as it. So Art plus programming, math is art. That's my life. Uh, this is me in the middle, and this is everything I do. So especially at Activision, I don't really work on a lot of game assets. Sometimes I do when I'm rigging them, but most of the stuff is all behind the scenes. And the basic purpose of a tech artist in a studio is streamline how art is made and put it into the game. So that's basically what I do. And here is a bit bullet points of what tech art is. Uh, Rigging, character rigging. I think most of you know what rigging is. If you don't, it's when you take a 3D model and you put a skeleton or points of articulation inside it, so it could be animated. That's a big part of what I do. Custom tools. I know this question was asked, and let's not confuse this with. So there's different types of tools programming in the industry. There's one where especially at Activision, we use all proprietary stuff, so we don't use Unreal or Unity. Everything is in house engines, and all the asset management and everything all custom tools. Those are handled by the tools programmers, C++, C sharp. The custom tools I make are mostly for artists or for myself or for whoever. So they're mostly in relation to the 3D DCC we're using. So could be Maya, Motion Builder, Max, even Photoshop. So those are the custom tools I make. If you get requests from an animator, it's like, hey, I would like a tool that does this, because my all softwares don't have everything, and there's like 500 custom tools available at Activision, because there's so many studios. So that's the custom tools I work on. Mostly all of them are written in Python, uh, and maybe I'll learn C++ someday. Implementation is a big part of what I do. So making the character rig and implementing it in the game engine, or porting over, if everybody knows Warzone, porting over guns or characters from Cold War or Modern Warfare or Vanguard into Warzone. Uh, so that's one of something big I do. Warzone was a is a challenging project because it's literally 3 games into one. So a lot of custom tech and a lot of different tech is being gone inside it. So handling all the implementation of characters, guns, creatures, props, vehicles, anything that moves. Pipeline. So that pipeline is more of on the art animation side is the pipeline of animation and the tech anim. So how we make character rigs, because once you're in the industry, you don't make anything from scratch. So we have like a whole modular pipeline. Uh, Pipeline could be from how are we handling faces and bodies, outside engine, inside engine, all the tech that goes on how to do mocap, how to do mocap animations, how to put them on the rig, how to clean that up, how to put that in the engine. So that whole stuff is being handled by us on the art side, especially on the animation side. Uh, Version control. This is something I think programmers should be used to. GitHub, Perforce, Shotgun. We use Perforce, and sometimes we make special functions. So like if we're making a tool, we include the Perforce API to check for changes and do a lot of crazy stuff like check out the thing automatically, make a change list. A lot of that stuff is being handled by us, so artists can just work freely without being blocked or anything. File naming convention, huge thing in the industry because can't just name a gun as gun 123, gun 345. So, or any asset. So a lot of it is being handled by us. We define the naming convention, especially in asset side or animation side. Uh, and shaders is something I don't touch a lot. I do know many stuff about shaders. I do know the basics of shaders, how they work. Sometimes we touch base with material team or material asset team because it directly correlates to how the animation is made. Sometimes we have like vertex paint or stuff like that. So shaders is something I don't personally touch here at Activision a lot, but they also come with a tech art. So they're tech artists who just do shaders, which is pretty cool. And simulation is something we do touch a lot. So Uh, Everything that moves comes under us. That could be anything that's simulated, cloth physics, hair physics. That's especially in Call of Duty with for the budget and AAA. Uh, we have it's a lot of simulation, a lot of custom tech, a lot of tech that's available. So this is the general umbrella of what tech art is. Uh, I wouldn't say I'm a full-time programmer, but I do code quite a bit, uh, especially for animation and helping other people's workflow. Uh, and yeah, I don't really work on any art anymore. Uh, so this is kind of like what I explained. So if I go over what I do in studio is I am slammed with meetings every day. Oh, that was a joke, but yeah, there are a lot of meetings, especially here, because everything needs to be everyone needs to get to sync of what everybody's doing, what's new, what's coming. So a lot of what I do is create rigs of characters. So if a new skin is coming to Warzone, a new gun is coming, we need to make rigs for that so people can animate it and then we can use it. That's like 30% of my job now. It used to be 100% back in Soho. When I was working on the film, I was doing all just character rigs. But now it's shifted towards the more technical back end side of games. A lot of what I do is bug fixing in games, and so everything that comes under animation side or just the asset side, if you see a gun and it's I don't know, the scope is misaligned or something. Anything that relates to us, we fix that, and that is just all proprietary tech, not Maya or anything. Sometimes we go in Maya, change the file, and like I said, tools for artists. Uh, we make tools for everybody, artists, and they're fun. A lot of my work is also R&D. Uh, we are always up to date with the new tech, and that can involve anything from new engine stuff to new solvers. When I mean solvers, I mean motion capture solvers, automate the whole motion capture pipeline, automate Ziva or Jolly. If you guys don't know, those are facial automation softwares that are being used on every AAA game like Spider-Man or Cyberpunk, just to save a lot of time. Fix issues with our existing pipeline, existing games, engine stuff, and innovation. Uh, I think many AAA studios don't share a lot, but there's a lot of innovation that happens because our engine is not Unreal and or Unity. So a lot of our stuff like lighting systems and animation systems or just gameplay systems are very different and very innovative. So we have our hand in there too. A lot of it, I work with all the teams across game dev. So I work with modelers to make sure that mesh and the model is good. And if there's changes anything with that, we work with animators if they run into any issues in engine or outside the engine. Most of the outside engine is stuff handled by programmers, but we still help them as much as we can. Programmers is a big thing because what we do directly relates to the game. So if we put a gun in the game, it directly relates to how the gameplay team or the system design team is going to handle it. So there's a lot of back and forth between people, a lot of talking to people. And at Activision, it's a lot of just not talking between Raven people, but talking to Infinity Ward or Treyarch or Sledgehammer, High Immune Studios, and many people. On the film side, there is some back and forth too. Well, my experience, there wasn't a lot, but there was. So like maulers, animators, and comp. So that's like composition. Uh, I don't know if anybody's interested in film, but film was cool. Just wasn't for me because I like video games. Dailies and meetings with the team. So every day we have a meeting. What's going on? What do we do? What are we doing next? What's coming next? Dailies. Our work is critiqued. Well, not anymore, but my work is not really critiqued because it's all behind the scenes. It the way we test our work works is if something is working or not. But a lot of animation critiques, modeling critiques, uh, keeping proper file structure documentation. So I think I saw a question about how good your documentation is. Uh, it's pretty good given how many studios we have and how every studio has their tech that is different. So like Infinity Ward has different tech than Sledgehammer, Sledgehammer different tech than Treyarch, Treyarch has a different tech, and the documentation is pretty good at times and pretty detailed. And it could be bad too with some stuff, not really bad, but like less documented stuff because nobody's using that tool. So it's like, okay, but the documentation is pretty good, uh, but it's just not available to anybody outside Activision. So that I hope that answers your question. Uh, and there's fun stuff too, like it's not just all work in any studio. There's fun stuff like which I sadly haven't experienced yet, like in-person parties. Well, I did with Behavior when I was in Montreal. So we have studio lunch, game parties. We play all kinds of games. We play Warzone, we play Ghost Recon or Smash, and now everybody's excited for Elden Ring. Uh, we watch movies together, celebrate holidays, and just fun stuff too. Because in the end, we're there to make video games and have fun while making them. It's kind of like my studio life. And as you grow, as you become, so I'm not actually a junior. I'm a mid tech anim. So there's a lot more kind of responsibilities when you start going up the ladder, and your responsibilities increase, and you go to more meetings because more meetings is always fun. Uh, my experience in game dev and film has been that college was fun, but I feel like working at a studio and working on projects is really, really great. And me, I always dreamed of working on a big game, and I am now, and worked on a pretty big film. So it's an amazing feeling. People are very talented. I still get the imposter syndrome. I'm like, damn, this guy's probably better than me, or this person's better than me. But people are very talented in the studio, and any studio. That's why we have good games. Even if games don't really do well, there's don't blame the game devs because everybody is hard at work and most of the decisions are on the business side. And the other thing I realized, which I didn't know much when I was in school, is people are out there to help you. So go go make your network. Like I talk to people that are like 25 years more, so like they're technical directors at Riot or Ubisoft or Naughty Dogs, and people are out there to help you. You just need to reach out to them and be like, "Hey, can you critique this? Can you help this? Can you help me with this?" Uh, and when you start in the industry, I didn't know much. Like I knew how to do my job, but I feel like I have grown very more into person with more knowledge as I started working. A lot of things I learned just I feel like not I'm gonna say couldn't learn in college, but I feel like a lot of things you could only learn on the job. So like how production works, how sprints work, how deadlines work. Because right now you're in school, you're like, all right, deadline, assignment, go. But when you're involved, it's when you're in job, deadlines are kind of important. And that goes to Vince's question: do you learn most of your programming on the job, Vince? I've always been a tech person, Vince. So I grew in high school. I learned a lot about programming, like Java, HTML, MySQL. So I had the basics down since high school, and I was learning Python on the side in school. So I learned the basics of it on side, but I'm still learning. I'm still so I do learn a lot of programming on my job. Also, I do look at a lot of code in the job, like every code we have or tools we have. Also, we have a lot of resources to learn whatever you want to learn. So we have access to plural sites, etc., etc. So I do learn a lot, and not just programming. Uh, Another thing I think this is something I fell under was doubting yourself and afraid that you aren't good enough. I feel like this is something I still kind of suffer with. Uh, but I did get a job, or I was in my second job or third. So like I've had four jobs, and I still think sometimes that I'm not good enough, but that's not true. Don't think you're not good enough because if you are where you are right now, you're definitely good enough to get a job. And just be good to yourself. You won't know everything. I don't know everything, but I'm learning. Uh, but that has been my experience. Also, like college has been pretty good to me. So make sure you're like talking to people a lot in college and making a network for yourself. Because I still talk to my friends, and we refer each other at our studios. It's like if somebody's like, "Hey, do you?" Because like this happens a lot. Somebody comes up to me, it's like, "Hey, do you know an animator?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I do. Like one of my friends, just hire him." So networking, networking, networking. Uh, this was more for artists, like I said, but I think this kind of still goes to programming when it comes to jobs and everything. Because I've talked to new programmers, experienced programmers, new artists, experienced artists, directors, HR people. Uh, I'm just gonna share my experience. How so I started early. Uh, I was researching a lot in school because that's what school is. You gotta research what do you want to do. And at first, I wanted to be a modeler, and then I picked up animation. Then I wanted to be a gameplay animator. Then I picked up rigging. Then I wanted to be a character rigger, and I did choose character rigging in second year of college. As like in my behind my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. So I had a lot of info and development, and I feel like there's so many roles that people don't know exist. Like I was just talking to Vince about like there's so many different kind of roles in the industry, and it's not like if you don't like animation that you won't like say simulation or vice versa. If you don't like simulation, you won't like animation. So make sure you research a bit if you're currently not happy with what you're doing. There might be something more interesting to you. And also like interests change as you start working. So like for me, I just wanted to be a character rigger, but once I started working, I feel like now I'm transitioning towards more just either tools dev side or technical direction for animation side. So I've left kind of I still am a character rigger, but I'm trying to shift into more bigger fields. I also like the idea of systems design. So you never know. Once you're in, it's just like you can change side, but you just need to be good at what you do. Uh, I think this is for everybody. Don't be afraid to apply for positions with 3 year or less experience. If you see a job posting that you're like, okay, this is I can do all of this, but then there's the line that says 3 years of minimum experience. Just apply. That's how I got all my jobs. No lie. CyberConnect was like 3 years of experience. I was like, I just graduated in April because your college also counts as experience. I do have some experience because I was working with the college, so that was one of the experience I put in, and I think that helped a lot. But don't be afraid to apply if you think you can do the job. So another thing I did is especially for artists, but programmers can also do that. Tailored my demo reel and my resume for different studios. So I think when I make, so I see a lot of this with my other animation friends or modeling friends. If you're applying to say Blizzard, then most of the demo reels or portfolios are made in Overwatch in mind, which is pretty good. You would want to show them that you can work in the art style they're working on. Uh, but programming, I really can't say much because it's all just zeros and ones. Uh, but for us, not all just zeros and ones. But you can make a game that's kind of like in there, or you can make a game system that is kind of like there. It's more for artists or animators here. So if you were applying for, say, Activision, or if you want to work on Call of Duty, you should have more of first-person animations or just high quality animation, maybe a lot of motion capture, a lot of cleaning up, a lot of first person animations. Uh, and if you're a modeler, you should have like a lot of AAA quality dioramas. And that said, it's not that if you have a very good realistic demo reel and you apply to, I don't know, what's a game studio that does, so like CyberConnect, which totally works with anime style and cell shading and everything. And it's not that they're not gonna it's not that they're gonna hire you if they see you can do realistic stuff. You can do cartoony stuff. This is something just I did. Uh, LinkedIn was a great tool for me, and I think I've interviewed with almost every big studio there is. I've interviewed with Ubisoft, Rockstar, EA, uh, Activision, Microsoft, and and I've had offers from quite a places, but I just chose Activision. But I'm always in touch with the recruiters because they reach out once in a while, like, "Hey, are you still happy? You want to change positions?" Like, no, but then I'm like, "No, not really, but I can refer my friend." So LinkedIn is a great tool. So what personally what I used to do was if I'm applying to Ubisoft, I would just start looking for recruiters at Ubisoft and connecting with them and being like, "Hey, I saw this position and I applied for it. This." So, and that way, I made a lot of recruiter friends, which is fun. So, LinkedIn is a great tool. Everybody, this is for everybody. And if you're a programmer, publish your code or game on your website or GitHub. That is also very big tool for programmers. Uh, so one thing I did was I used to talk to my professors a lot. Like you can ask JP about me, and he'll just tell you what kind of person I am, how much I talk. So I was always talking to JP. I was always talking to my professors who were working at Ubisoft or Rockstar. I was like, "Hey, how does it work? How's the pipeline? How do you do this? How do you do that?" I learned a lot just from there and the people in the industry. So if I had a friend who was working, I would just ask them questions and they would answer within the scope. Uh, Another thing is apply to all types of studios. I knew when I started, I was like, I just want to work at Ubisoft. That's it, end goal. But obviously, that didn't turn out that way. I worked for CyberConnect, I would say AA, AAA game, and then feature film. But I applied everywhere, and funnily enough, all the indie studios kind of like just rejected me, and all the AAA studios kind of gave me an interview, which is funny. But just apply everywhere. Uh, and when I mean everywhere, I would, especially with the world situation of the world right now, I feel like remote positions are so big. Like my studio is in Wisconsin, and I work from Toronto, so remote work is kind of like the future. I would almost say many studios don't allow fully remote, um, but if I hadn't if this thing wouldn't have happened, I would have never gotten a job at Activision because if they were just in place or in studio, maybe I would have. The remote works did exist, but it was not as big as it is now. I'm just gonna answer Vince's question. Oh, I worked at the Montreal branch, Vince. Uh, so we did work with the I did work with the Montreal branch, but there was a lot of back and forth between the Japan branch. But primary work was at the Montreal branch, which just opened recently. Mm. And I guess I'll talk a bit about the interview process and hiring process for those who don't know how it goes. I mean, I guess the programming was going to be same, but I know there's different things like a lot more tests in programming. So you apply, and then you wait 50 years for them to get back to you. And then there's a phone interview or screening with a recruiter, and they ask you basic stuff like, "What's your name? What's your experience? What do you do? What are you really comfortable in? How long have you been doing this?" And there's a lot of just get to know you kind of thing, and see if your experience lines up with the job they have. Uh, and if that goes well, then they email you with another interview with the team, HR and leads, sometimes directors. Like my first interview at Activision was with straight up with the animation director. Uh, they either do that or they either just ghost you. So if they ghost you, just apply to a different studio or just apply there. But as sadly, people ghost a lot in our industry. And I did write technical tests because I have given a technical test to almost every studio I've worked at except CyberConnect. Uh, and this is true for everybody, especially as a programmer. I think there's a programming test too because they actually need to know that you can work. And sadly, some people steal a lot of animation from other people or code from other people, and they want to know that you can actually do what you're showing. And there's a technical test. Timeline depends on studios. Some studio will give you 2 weeks to do this. Some studios will give you 5 days or a week. And then You give in the technical test and you send in your test, and then they review it. And then there's a final interview. So I had two interviews at Activision, uh, and the last one was just us talking about Call of Duty and Warzone. And so that's just the last interview is just to know how you are as a person and if you would fit well with the team. And then they ask you the question which I had no idea about. Or sometimes they ask you in the screening is, oh, what's your salary expectations? And that's a very fun question. Uh, and I'm pretty sure when you hear it for the first time, you'll probably freeze for like 10 seconds and be like, oh, this is why I told you do research, guys. Make sure you know how much people are getting paid. And then there's the offer, and then you accept the offer, and then your life starts. General advice kind of goes back to what I already talked about. Focus on school. So if you really like animation, please focus on animation and make sure you work hard. And because in the end, no one's gonna look at your grades; they're just gonna look at your portfolio. But that kind of correlates to how much effort you put in, and explore your options. So I graduated as an animator, and I don't work as an animator. Or I know people who graduated as artists and they're working as producers. So explore your options. Know different kind of what jobs there are in the industry because there are many, many, many. Talk to your professors. This is something I used to do. I used to talk to JP a lot because so like many of our professors in the art side will actually just directly. So if they know you do a good job, they'll just directly refer you to the studio. I know some many. I'm not gonna take the names, but I know many professors do that, and it's very big help. And show them your work. Um, Work on side projects. This is something I tell my class too. Is like if we're doing a run and a walk in class, just don't be like, okay, that's enough animation. No, you need to work on side projects. Do a jog. Do a like a zombie walk or anything. So same goes for programming. If you're making something for class, don't be like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna put on a portfolio. You need to work on side projects. I worked on many side projects and I still do. Demo reels or with postgrads. So I think everybody here almost does that in Studio Lab where you can work with postgrads because then you can have a game that you worked on and you can show it on your reel, which is good for everybody, programmers, artists. So make sure you work on side. The other one is pretty important. Enjoy and be passionate about what you do because once you're in, you're just gonna be working 8 to 10 hours a day for a week till as long as you want to work. So you better be passionate about what you do. Uh, there are definitely times when I've been like, "Fuck this," but that's just when shit goes down. There's a lot of bugs. Game is not in a good state, but I'm passionate about what I do, and I hope you are passionate about what you do, and hope you enjoy that because that's why we're here. Hey, if you love making video games, you do. If you like making films, you do. Uh, Keep refining your skills and invest in yourself. This is also a big one. It kind of correlates back to the one on top. Please refine your skills. Make sure you're investing in yourself. I know maybe you'll get busy. We have part-time jobs and whatnot, but make sure you take out the time to actually improve your skills. Because if you apply for a job and you don't get in, you know, that mostly means that you need to work on your portfolio and you need to work on your skills and then you work on your skills and then you apply again and then you get the job. So make sure you invest in your skills. Put yourself out there. Share what you're doing with the world. Go on Twitter, post your animation. Go on LinkedIn, post your code. And go on GitHub, post your code. Go on LinkedIn, post what you did. It's a pretty good way to get known. Another one is also do challenges. So like hackathons or Ubisoft NXT is coming, which is a pretty good one. Uh, if you win, you get a job at Ubisoft, which is pretty cool. And George Brown always wins. So in many fields, share your work. Share your work to your friends or your classmates. This is something we did in the class a lot. We would just share our work and get fresh eyes on your work, especially that animator or artist. Get fresh eyes uh, and get criticism. Don't be afraid to get criticism because it's also a big part. Uh, you need to progress. Doesn't matter if the criticism is good or bad. Uh, but yeah. Uh, and yes, guys, they're hiring at Activision across every studio. And I think there are some intern positions too. I'll take a look. But go apply. Uh, or apply when you're done school, because for a full-time job. So everyone who's in the last semester, you know, make sh- go apply for it. You never know what will happen. Uh, and let me just think about, because this is everything I talked about last year, and let me think if I have something new to share from here. I guess I'll talk about how it is working at Activision and Blizzard. Activision Blizzard, because there's a lot of news articles and whatnots and stuff. So my experience has been pretty good, personally. Uh, the studio I'm under Activision is Raven Software, which is the lead studio for Warzone, and all my coworkers are amazing, talented people, and I feel like I've learned a lot at Activision. Especially with someone as me who wants to work on next gen tech and edge cutting tech on games, AAA games. I think it's been pretty good for me. I Every day I go and I see a new tech or old tech but better. Uh, Activision is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, we get free swags of everything. I just joined a couple months ago and I already have like more than dozen clothes just from Activision swag. Get free games and whatnot. Uh, but yeah, downside is just don't tweet anything like which can get you in trouble, because when you work on something as big as Warzone, you can't just tweet something because then the fanboys will attack you. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty cool working at Activision. Working at Behavior was also amazing. I didn't work on Dead by Daylight. I worked on a game that got canceled, sadly. It was a mobile game. So I've kind of worked on almost everything. I worked on a console, PC game, mobile game, film, and now AAA and not next gen, current gen. PS5 is current gen. And I know there's things about Activision out there, and sadly, it is just how the industry is. But not everybody is bad. Uh, some people are very great, and you know, in the end, we're in the industry to make just amazing video games and have fun while making them. Uh, okay, I think that's it for me. I'm just gonna go on. Oh yes, if the deal goes through, then I'll be Microsoft employee, because well, that's how acquisition works. So they did buy Activision, and I think personally it'll be it's a good move. I think, even though I'm not an Xbox fan, I'm a PlayStation guy. But it's weird because I would joke about this in school. It's like, hey, I'm a PlayStation fan. What if I ended up working on Xbox one day and I wake up and next year I'll be working under Xbox?
Thank you so much, Yash, for your speaker material. It was definitely very insightful, and I hope everybody was able to get something out of it. So now we're going to move into the Q&A session of the talk. We did answer like a few things over the course of the presentation, and if there's anything else that came to your mind, please feel free to talk about it. I'm going to go through the list, and once we reach the end, I'll open up for open floor. The first one comes from Benjamin. You may have like answered this already, but what unique.
When I think if you want, I can just read the question and just answer it
Okay,
if
yeah,
that's easier.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah. So Benjamin asked me, what unique challenges have you faced working with custom in-house engine? How does it compare to UE or Unity? So I feel like I'm still in the process of learning a lot about the engine itself, because there's no documentation out there. It's custom built, so if anything goes wrong, just I think the good thing is if anything goes wrong, we are to blame, and we can just talk to the people who made it directly. Uh, how does it compare to Unreal or Unity is a tough one to answer, and I don't know how much I can go into that side without breaking uh, NDAs or stuff. But it's pretty. every engine is the same. Is how I would answer. It's just so like I think the big thing we use is we don't use FBXs. We have our in-house asset format too. So our engine is smart enough to catch up on anything that's not a FBX. So that's another one. All the engines are great. We just like I think actually some big studios just like having their own so they can target. So like I think why they make custom engines is so it can work well with their pipeline and the tools they already have. So I would say my engine is pretty cool. Yeah. So how good the documentation is. So it's a private engine, pretty good documentation because there needs to be a good documentation because you can't just go online. So yeah, as someone who graduated a game art, do you learn? Yes, I think I answered that, Vince. Question from Mary: how do you apply to a film or game studio if they say you need more than two experience? It wouldn't matter. Yeah, so I think as an animator and an artist, in the end, it all comes down to your demo reel. Uh, and even if you, like I said, even if you don't have like 2 years of experience, you still have 3 years of experience you gathered in school. So just apply for it. Benjamin, what is your metric for success when in game industry? Is the final product selling well? Mostly bug-free game. Call it doing for time. What is it? That's a good one, Benjamin. I think success in the game industry is definitely from a game that's v- taken well by the players. Mostly bug-free game. Yeah, I would say. Hopefully. Uh, Quality work delivered on time. Yes, that's another one we focus a lot. I think another big metric is, especially at Activision, we do care about the players first. I think this is everywhere. Everybody cares about the players first. Especially we all game devs. You know, we love our game. We want people to have fun with the game, but at the another side, we should also remember that games are just business. You know, so this is a very hard question to answer because I don't think there's a metric for success. Or there's something that you need to win the game of the year to be the best game because Red Dead Redemption didn't win Game of the Year, but we all know how good Red Dead Redemption is. Uh, I think from a consumer standpoint, it's mostly just a bug-free game and like a nice game. As a game dev, we have a lot of so like a success could just be like, hey, we had this cool tool or tech we developed for the game, and that could be an interior thing, but I think that's another one. But I think it's really but quality work delivered on time is definitely a very very important one, but sadly doesn't happen sometimes. Do you also handle mocap pipeline tools? Because mocap technology changes a lot, but the engine mostly stay the same. Yes, we do handle everything with mocap pipeline and mocap tools. So it all comes under the animation team I'm under. So mocap technology does change a lot, but it's mostly just how the mocap is solved. In the end, it's all just joints and animation, and when it goes in the engine, it's just the same. So the technology might change of like, okay, you have this motion capture and you're trying to solve it. So the algorithm for that might change, but the end result is still in animation. So, but we do handle mocap pipelines. If you have a new contract to develop a game but lack some skills, you just dive in. If you have a new contract to develop a game with lack some skills, I think if you doubt yourself, I would say yes, go in and study hard so you till you get it. But at the same time, Neil, I would say just let's go for it. You know, like when someone comes up to me with a tool, it's like, hey, I need a tool that does this. I might not know on top of my head how to do it, but once I start putting in the pieces together, uh, then because that's how also you can learn by just doing it. Like that's what I learned. Told myself it's like I'm like I can just sit there and be like, yeah, I'm gonna learn programming. I'm gonna learn tool stuff. But I think a lot of it's just by doing it. Uh, Unless if it's a contract that's like they're paying you for it, which is a different thing. I think if they're paying you, then you do need to be sure with what you're gonna do is in quality and what they want. So yeah. which I think I mentioned. I think I answered that. What animation demo reel is a very different type, more showing the quality. For example, like if yeah. So about that, for an animation demo reel, it's always about the quality and not the quantity. Uh, but I would still add a pretty decent motion capture animation or whatever you have in between, just so you can show them like, okay, I do know motion capture. Uh, how demo reels for animation work is you always start with your best piece and you always end with your best piece, and in between you can put everything else and make sure it's not too long. Microsoft. Yep. Speaking of controversies with Activision, have things improved there? Uh, I can't say for all of Activision, sadly, because there's a lot of studios under. And at Raven, we never really had anything big like that or a controversy at Raven Software itself. But I know, speaking from someone who's inside, I know they are trying to improve many things. Uh, I think the game industry just like needs to change a lot of how it works, and I think Activision is doing everything in the right position, right points, and what they need to improve on. So sadly, I can't answer this as detailed as you would like because I don't really know much, but I know they are trying to improve. Uh, this might be difficult to answer. Wondering job landscape is like in animation compared to modeling. It's more expensive, kind of dwell into both. I haven't really done modeling to be honest. I've worked with modelers, but I haven't done modeling. I think this is just. I think this is for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a programmer or artist. The industry is competitive. Everybody wants to make games. Everybody who goes in school to learn how to make games wants to make games. So I wouldn't say I think from first glance, modeling might be a bit harder to get into because many people do modeling, whereas not everyone does animation. In my experience, but there's still many animators, many great animators. So everything is competitive, and but at the same time, if you're good at what you do, then you know go for it. Yeah, so do you have any advice for choosing specialized second AGBC?
Mhm. Oh,
That's
yeah.
definitely a good one.
Mhm.
Because I think I was kind of the same. So I actually had a so back in my second year I had a chat with JP and I was like I don't know what to do, and I think it was just a leap of faith. It's like I want to do tech art, and a lot of animation stuff is in tech art, so I just kind of did that. So I would say I think a good thing to see is like if you when you're gonna do this as a permanent like a job, I would I would go towards the thing that you'll be more comfortable and you would want to do every day, every week. Like I can do animation and I'm pretty decent at it. I don't think so. I can animate for 8 hours a day every week. That's kind of how I chose for it for myself. And also, even if you're good at both and passionate about, if you're passionate about it both, still go for the thing that you're good at. So if you're really good at animation, but you're passionate about modeling, but you're really good at animation, I would say just go for animation, or you can just take a leap of faith and just go for modeling. You can always learn. Do you deal with outsourcing studios? Used to be one was fun. Yes, Kojima. We do work with outsourcing a lot. Like so much of what we do is, and it's just not for animation and modeling. It's tool. Sometimes we outsource tools or have tech or whatever. Uh, so yeah, we do deal with it, and it's pretty fun. Uh, Especially with something as COD, which is it's like COD is in development 24/7. There's so many studios working on it. Every morning I wake up, something I fixed went broke again, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, we deal with outsourcing studios. Mostly it's the leads or the managers dealing with the people. But if I'm working on something and something goes wrong, then I just go directly talk to the person who's in charge of that. So yes, we do with outsourcing studios. Where do you see Raven in the future? Stay with COD or go back to roots with its own IP? interesting question, Benjamin. Uh, I don't really know the answer for that. I think it's most up to Activision or in the future, hopefully Microsoft. Uh, I hope. I mean, as a player, like they have pretty cool IPs, and it'd be nice to visit them. Uh, but you know, with Warzone is, I think it's gonna be Warzone for a while, maybe. But yeah.
Yakalanmayan suçlayan suçsuz denir.
Okay.
Kendini bağımlı.
I
Herkes çalıyor, ben niye yakalanmıyorum?
Sorry, Mary, did you
Bu
have
kadar
your mic on
kullanıyorum
right now?
stresli.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, we've reached sort of like the end of like this text, but the text portion of the Q and A. I'm definitely allowing for open mic if you
yeah,
guys
for
have any,
sure.
like in-person questions that is like you shouldn't really type out in text, or if you wanted to like if there's anything like currently you're in your mind on the spot that you wanted to talk to Yash about like personally, this is right now is the time to do it. I'm opening up the privilege to turn off your mutes and feel free to like speak for anything. Me personally, like in terms of like
So I think I'm just gonna mention that it's like you can always just reach out to me, email me, or just put like Discord DM me if you ever have any questions. So yeah,
yeah, there's
on the
that.
closing note.
But yeah, I can like offer like perhaps like the next like 10 to 15 minutes if anybody wants to come on the mic.
I'll just talk. Anything
Or,
is fine.
or just talk. Yeah, we can just talk. I mean, personally, with the Microsoft buyout, I'm really kind of hoping that some of the older IPs that Activision kind of had like sort of like down under could get revived. I'm personally hoping for like if they ever revive Prototype at some point.
Yeah, I think I can't talk as a Raven employee, but as a player, I hope. I mean, I know Microsoft has given some interest in like the old IPs like Spyro or Crash or even Hexen for those very very old people who know Hexen. So I hope something happens with it, but we can't really say.
That's
Uh,
that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, like most of like the questions I'd probably have in mind, I wouldn't technically be answered because of like because of NDA and all. But you see yourself like being at Raven for like a foreseeable future? Would you consider if like the restrictions here sort of like light enough? Would you consider like continuing furthering your expansions, or do you find yourself in a comfortable place at Raven right now?
That's a good question. I think that also changes every day. But I feel like cuz I've worked at kind of like 4 studios in the span of 2 years. I feel like I would like to stick with Raven for a while and grow up the ladder at least, learn a lot more. Because I feel like there's so many things I can only learn in Activision, or there's so many things you can only learn in a certain studio about. Like at this, when in a few years I'll be like, okay, I know how Call of Duty works. Like I know how the pipeline for COD is, or for a AAA game is, and I think I would like to stay here for a while. But then again, if something happens in the future, there's you just if you have to move, you have to move. But for me, I think I would like to stay at Raven for quite a long time, or Activision.
The Raven software branch that's sort of located in the states, is it? And do they
Wisconsin. Yeah, the studio's in Wisconsin.
okay? And then they allow for remote work.
So yeah, so technically, for any administrative or legal reasons, I'm employed by Beanox here in Canada, but I don't work with Beanox. I work for Raven. So Beanox is just on paper. So be like, okay, he's working for a Canadian studio, but my work is with Raven. But yeah, they are in the States, but at the same time, Sledgehammer is in Toronto, and when they open a studio, and if I really want to go work at a studio, I can just go take a desk at a Sledgehammer studio. And it's pretty flexible with how Activision works. So there's that too. Yeah.
So you communicate to Raven directly. You don't have to like go through like some sort of like specific channel. You don't have to like talk through Sledgehammer or.
Oh no, no. But like the way our Slack is set up is like everyone from Activision is there. So if I'm working on something, an asset from Sledgehammer, and I know the person who was in charge of it in Sledgehammer, I can just go directly talk to them. But yes, I do work with Raven directly. But then again, everyday job we work with people from Infinity Ward or Treyarch or Sledge, and we just go and just be like, "Hey, this thing's not working. Why?" And so, yeah, there's that too.
Benjamin here says, just don't bring up Hexen's level design.
Oh, Hexen.
But yeah, if anybody else has anything you want to talk about to Yash with, feel free to do so. I can like leave it open for like 30 seconds.
Hey, Yash, can I send you a friend request on Discord? I got some stuff I'd
Yeah.
like to chat with you about,
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Just want to, with you being a GBC prof and everything, just want to, chat about a couple of things I've been working on, both academically and in free time, and just get some feedback on that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. No worries.
Okay.
You're allowed to
Yes,
share your
anytime.
screen as well if you want to. But if it's a private thing, then definitely,
It's not private. It's just, something I've been working on, which I want to have front and center in my portfolio, and just wanting some thoughts on it. Like I'm still a year away from proper like portfolio stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to be able to. I mean, like we have someone in the industry right here, right now, that's able to give you like feedback on whatever it is you're currently working on. So I'd say use time you can wisely.
And if it's more programming related, I can just go talk to my friends and I get back to you on that. So don't be like I'm just an artist. But yeah, always open for feedback or just talk or whatever.
All right. I'll send a build your way, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, builds, man.
Builds.
Yeah, freaking build. It's so many builds.
That's the first email every morning. Build is broken. It's like,
oh no, that'd be something to look forward to once we hit the industry.
oh yeah, that's the morning emails about build being broken. Yep.
Oh no. Yeah. Does anybody else want to open up on the mic if you guys have anything interesting you want to discuss about? If not, then this will conclude our IGDA session for tonight. On behalf of the exec team, myself, Yaniv, and our co-execs Yaniv and Hardik, we'd like to thank you all for coming here, and we hope you enjoyed tonight. It was a really informative night, by the way.